Oy Zayin. Now we're getting to the crux of the story that Reb Nachum told the Frierdiker Rebbe's uncle, Reb Zalman Aaron, the Rebbe Rashab's brother, that he showed them with all the details. Tchilas ha'inyan, beginning of the story of the arrest. So Reb Nachum told over that it was Matzah Simchas Torah, Wednesday night, late at night. It became known that there came a cluster of officers to, so to speak, capture and arrest our Zayda and take him to Petersburg. He told over the tremendous sharuria, tremendous whirlwind that came about between Chassidim when they heard this. And Thursday evening, they takachat al Rebbe. They allowed him to daven Ma'ariv in his house, but then they took him with this black wagon, guarded with armed police, and there was a fear of death that fell upon the entire family. That night, a group of Chassidim, those that were part of the Talmidei Cheder Aleph, Beis, and Gimel, that were known between the Chassidim with their tremendous shkida, as we said already, about learning, but also applying themselves and dedicating themselves to establishing Teres Chassidus, they gathered together in a meeting to discuss and to plan how to go about this story of the arrest. The Asifa, this gathering, came to an understanding and decided that they will, all of them, together with another few of their friends that they spelled out, that were not by the meeting, each one will let go of everything else they're busy with, whether it's their personal things, and dedicate themselves completely, totally, their body and soul, and with all they own, all their possessions, to save the Alter Rebbe and to save the Tznuah of Chassidus. The Asifa chose a specific committee, VAT, that's going to lead anything related to saving the Alter Rebbe and to ensure the Seder in an orderly fashion that the Alter Rebbe set up and led Chassidim with, and hence guard Chassidus and strengthen the spirit of Chassidim in each and every place where they lived. And all anash, from young to old, they must follow through on any of the orders given by these committees without any explanation or without haggling and arguing. And anyone that Rahman al-Atzlan will disobey these committees, his name will be erased chas v'shalom from between the kahal, the congregation of Chassidim. The Vad decided and wrote it down and signed off on this command to each and every one of Anash, that Aleph, throughout the time that the Alter Rebbe is incarcerated, is imprisoned, a few things will have to happen. Aleph, all Anash will fast every Monday and Thursday, B'tzibur, aside from someone that is not able to, for reasons in halacha, is not able to fast. Every day of the week, Beis, Anash will only eat bread and water, cooked water, a little bit warm. And on Shabbos by night and by day, by each Suda there will only be one cooked food. They decide if it's fish, they can decide if it's food. In this time, Gimel, in this time, they will not set any dates for weddings or engagements. And those that have already set a time for marriage within this period of time that the Alter Rebbe is arrested, it should take place, but without instruments. Is only going to be one Seudah, and with not more than 10 people in order to make Shabbat brachas, and the meal will be without flesh. The fourth decision, throughout the Kabbalah, they were Makabal throughout the time the Alter Rebbe was arrested. Every Malamed will gather his students and say Tehillim every single day, and before beginning these Kapitel Tehillim, he's going to explain to them the story of what's going on, and the fact that a tzaddik is tzaddik hador, the righteous person, the tzaddik of the generation, is nitvas. He, so to speak, gets caught up in the sins of the generation, and therefore, Batson, it's not like Chas V'Shalom Alter Rebbe did anything wrong. This is all made up stories. It's a lila that they brought upon him. Hey, the fifth decision. Each one of Anash will tell his wife and children and daughters, the young sons and daughters, and all those that live in his house, the story of what's going on, and will tell them the tremendous yisurim, the pain and the suffering of the one that's caught, the Alter Rebbe, and the tremendous sin of all those that were malshin, and the tremendous schar of anyone that, so to speak, takes part in the pain of a Talmid Chacham and a Tzaddik. Sixth, each one of Anash will ensure that he pays his maimed to support the Beis Rebbe, the Alter Rebbe's family, and the kuppah that the Alter Rebbe dedicated himself to support the Achenu Be'eretz HaKodesh, Tibanim Zekoinim, the Koilel Chabad. Seventh, each person of Anash will make a list, a detailed list with all the silver and gold and jewelry that he owns. We'll soon see what happens with this list. 8, in each kibbutz, any place where Anash live or gather, they'll choose one reliable person that he's going to oversee the fulfillment of all these conditions that they put in place. To him they will bring the Kaspei Maimed that we mentioned in the number 6, and the Rishimis that we mentioned in number 7 that has all the jewelry. They're going to bring it to this person. 9, if Chas v'Shalom, someone passes away in this period of time, all the congregation of that city will gather, they'll go to mikveh, and after his tara, and they dress him in the shrouds and the tachrichim of the niftar, they should have him swear b'shvuas chaver shliach, with an oath of a friend and a representative, that his neshama should go up in the holy heichel of the Mizritcher Magid and the Baal Shem Tov, and they should notify them that the Alter Rebbe is incarcerated in prison, and Teres Chassidus is in danger. And this shvua that they swear him into, this oath, they should do 3 times after the halbasha, when they bring him to the Beis HaKvaris, before Stimas HaGoyla. Could be it's another 3 times. It means they do it once and then they do another 3 times. And the entire congregation should fast on this day. So this is all the takanos that they put in place for all the chassidim throughout the duration of the Alter Rebbe's arrest. The second big decision that the General Committee took was they're setting another vad that's going to have 3 groups of activists. One is going to deal with saving the Alter Rebbe. The second will deal with gathering money to ensure this, to be able to redeem and release the Alter Rebbe, and to support the Beis Rabbi and Kupas Eretz Yisrael. We said they're going to collect Maimid, but here is where they're beyond what Chassidim were able to put together, bigger sums. The third group of activists was to guard Chassidus and to strengthen and to raise the spirits between the Chassidim. The third big decision of the committee of the Chadarim, Talmidei Chadarim, was they called each and every member, and they assigned each person with his job. The group that's going to be busy with saving the Alter Rebbe, this group itself, this committee, should be split into 3 groups. There are those that will be in Petersburg to find out exactly what's going on and to get involved based on the context of what they find out. The second group of activists connected to saving the Alter Rebbe will go to Vilna. Obviously, clandestinely, they'll be in secrecy and in disguise, in order to know what the next moves of the Misnagdim may be. And the third will be in Shklov, which is another stronghold of Misnagdim, to know what the next steps are. These 3 groupings of activists will communicate with each other only through special messengers and not through the post, not through sending mail. So it doesn't end up in wrong hands, and everything they do has to be in complete secrecy. The second group will travel throughout the entire Medina to gather money for the release of the Alter Rebbe. Aleph, anything that's needed for those that are in Peterburg or Vilna or Shklov, anything they need, whether it's to grease wheels in the higher fensters or for their personal travel needs, etc. Beis, money for, like we mentioned, Beis Rabbi, anything the Alter Rebbe's family needs. And the third is to bring the Maimed of Kupas or Meir Balanes, Lidei Guvaina. So the families that are living in Eretz Yisrael and dependent on this, the Alter Rebbe endangered himself and was arrested. The official reasoning for the arrest was that he's supporting Turkey to overthrow the Russian government. There was really money he was going on Mesiras Nefesh to support these families in Eretz Yisrael. No. How did they decide? What was the amount of money that was required of each family? This is all the details that Reb Nachum told over to the Razal, that he told over to the Previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. The gathering worked as follows. They estimated in the presence of trustworthy people, one person that was reliable, and two Ziknei Anash of that place, they decided and how much cash, and they looked through all the lists of all the gold and silver and jewelry and all the precious items that each person had, and that were by the Neman. We said this trustworthy person, he was the one that kept all the Rishimas, and he kept the Maimed. They would check if everything is intact, and they would take from Baalei Chafatzim, the people that owned certain valuables, they would take Shtare Mechira, as if it was sold, and they should know that if Chas v'Shalom, time goes by and the Alter Rebbe is still going to be imprisoned, they will need everyone to bring all this to be guarded in the hand of the trustworthy person, so if it's needed, they should right away be able to take it from him, not have to collect it from all the families. So these, basically, the trustworthy person, together with two Ziknei Anash, went through how much money they have, so when someone from the general committee comes to find out how much money, they should know exactly how much money they have, where to get it from, and the people knew that they have to be on guard to give it up if it's needed. In that Gimel, in that Maimed, in that present state, they should make a Rishima of all the Nedunya. Nedunya is the dowries that all the young Anash that just got married got, and they should get notes that where these dowry monies are kept. So if they need, they should know where to retrieve them. The Dalit, the Rishima, and all of all the valuables and who has what, and all these papers that we said earlier that they have, like checks or contracts that they have to give over, should be given to the Neman of that city, and a copy should be sent to the Vad. They should know. Okay. The third group that we said their goal and their objective is to raise the spirits between Chassidim and to guard Chassidus. So their job was to strengthen Chassidim. They would go from city to city, from village to village, from settling one settled area to another, and reveal Teres Chassidus, to publicize it in public, to chazer the Teres of the Alter Rebbe in front of the masses, and explain them that in order that they should all know the Shitta of the Rebbe, and parenthetically the Frierdiker Rebbe writes on the side, at that point the Alter Rebbe already was called the Rebbe. Till then he was called the Magid of Liyazna, and in Poland they still called him the Magid, but in Russia they already started calling him the Rebbe of Liyazna. And they should add more and more Chassidim. More and more Chassidim should become Chassidim. And they also split up the various areas. Who's going to take charge of which place in the country? And they should travel 2 or 3 together, and when possible, even more. So one should stay in a place for longer. If needed, he could stay there to explain even more. And these Nesias, these journeys should be in famous places where there are famous strongholds of Misnayim. Ois Ches. Says the Friedrich Rebbe, a lot I have read in what was written in the notes that I almost poiled that Reb Zalman Aaron, my uncle, should let me copy it for myself. These notes that the Razah copied from Reb Nachum, until something happened. Some general matter came about. Friedrich Rebbe in parentheses writes, it's known in that year, Tafresh Samach Vav, those Yidden haters from the Mea Shchoira, they okay, we'll start again Chas in a minute. Let me just see how they write it. Who's Halta Zeger? It's crazy because this is just, it's not even getting to the story yet. One second. Yes. Wow. 8, here it is. Okay. Okay, come. I could just continue. Yeah? Still recording? There's the Yosef. Okay, but we're getting closer. The story itself. The story is mamish endless. Not endless. It is a Febrena. Febrena, the Febrena, yeah. Oisches, says the Friedrich Rebbe. Much of what I'm telling you, says the Friedrich Rebbe, I read in the notes in the diary of my uncle, and he says I almost convinced the Razah that he should give them to me so I can copy them. However, something came up, a public matter, and the Friedrich Rebbe says, as known that year, Tafresh Samach Vav, 1905, the enemies of Yidden, they were called the Mea Shchoira. There was a group of anti-Semites that organized pogroms. They, so to speak, caused damage to the Yidden in the high fence stairs. They were mamis, the Yidden, and every day, Chas v'Shalom was susceptible to being a pogrom, Hashem Yirachem. So for very important reasons, I was sent outside of this, the Chutz La'aretz, and I didn't have a chance to copy it. Just a little bit of it I wrote some of the small notes, and my own notes of what I wrote down from listening to my uncle, the Razah. And throughout that time, this is Tafresh Samach Vav, 4 years later, which is Tafresh Samach Tes, a few days before his Istalkos, my uncle the Razah took all these ksavim, everything he wrote in his ksav yad, many piles of papers and hanachas that he wrote of mamarim that he had. He gathered them and he burnt them, and he put them into a white cloth bag, and he called a family friend, the Chassid Reb Meir Martcha Barisov, and the Yashish, the older Chassid Reb Levi Yitzchak, which was a brother of the Gaon of Shnei Zalman of Lublin, and he gave them this little white bag of ashes with all the ksavim and all his zechronos that he burnt. And he told them, this is the ashes of the papers that I wrote over more than 30 years. And I ask of you that you should do with me a chesed shalamis and put it together with me when my time comes. And you should promise that nobody should know about it. That's where his Rishimis himself ended up. The Frierdiker Rebbe says, I wrote notes from what he told over. When we left, says the Frierdiker Rebbe, the city of Lubavitch, when they escaped for the final time, the Rebbe Rashab left together with the Frierdiker Rebbe to Rostov. Says the Frierdiker Rebbe, it was Tazayin Marchesh from Tafresh Ayin Vav. The Frierdiker Rebbe was jumping ahead. We left to Arol for 3 days. Until we came there, it was Yotes Cheshvan, in 6 o'clock in the evening. When we were sitting in the wagon, the Rebbe, my father, told me, 102 years our family lived in Lubavitch. 102 years from month to month, exactly to the date. The Azmor, my grandfather, which is the Mittler Rebbe, came to live in Lubavitch, Marcheshvan Tov Kof Ayin Dalit, and Marcheshvan Tov Reish Ayin Vav, we are leaving Lubavitch. 102 years to the month. He spoke about the numbers, which level they are, and explained about the Oiris and Kalim, that sometimes the greater number is above, and sometimes the lower number is considered the above, which one is the Mashpia, which is the Kabbalah. He was Marich, explaining the Maimer that it says in Pirkei Avos, that Shoyne Pirkei Mea Pamim to Shoyne Pirkei Mea Va'achas. The difference between the person that learns it 100 times, 101 times, and he concluded and said that the number 102 is more than 101 times. And Shaloi Lefi Erech Da'isaf of the number 1. That means the difference between number 101 to 102 is exponential. It's a much bigger leap. Because 202 is the Gematria Yesoid and Chav Beis Oisius. 22 Oisius. Lubavitch hat mit die 102 Jahr gemacht der Yesoid Musad mit die Chav Beis Oisius. Lubavitch, with these 202 years, was able to create a foundation with the 22 Oisius. And he said many other things that the Frierdiker Rebbe wrote down for himself in the Rishima. Minyan Li'inyan, he mentioned, the Rebbe Rashab mentioned that our uncle, Reb Nachum of Miezhin, was nostalgic when it was 102 years from the birth of the Mittler Rebbe, his father, and reminded himself the stories that he read in my uncle, the Razah. It means the Rebbe Rashab reminded himself various stories that his brother had written down, and when he knew that I bought all the Sfarim of my uncle, the Razah, he asked me about the Ksavim. When I told him about the Stalkos and that he burned the Rishima, that he burnt all his Rishimas, the Rebbe Rashab expressed himself, no, as matnish gewollt darf man it. If he didn't want, it's not necessary. It wasn't meant to reach us. Now, Ois Tes. Frierdiker Rebbe moves on from describing Reb Nachum and how his stories were transmitted to the Razah and where they ended up, and the Rebbe Rashab's response to it. He moves on to describing the arrest. Throughout the time that the Alter Rebbe sat in jail, became a huge rash, huge commotion in all the Medinas, in the various countries to which this Shmuel reached, this scary Shmuel. And as known that also the friends of the Alter Rebbe, namely the Talmidim of the Rabbi of the Mezritcher Magid, and all the Chassidim in all the countries were mishtatif. They took part in the pain of Chassidus Chabad, and in addition to the Ta'amula, the campaign that these groups of Chassidim did through traveling through these various yeshuvim and gathering places where Yidden lived, that we mentioned earlier, all this together caused that became much more Chassidim, and many more people joined their side of this not only argument but this tragedy in each place, because it became known all the lies and the falsehoods of these alilos, of these false accusations that they were were invented by those that were only looking to fight, those that were lighting this tremendous fire of hatred. And many of the great misnagdim saw that they've been drawn after them by mistake, and they took a step back. And the Alter Rebbe's righteousness and his being correct, it started becoming more and more widespread throughout the world. When the Alter Rebbe came to Vitebsk and was there for a few days, and when he came at that point to Lyazna, they waited hundreds of people from the surrounding cities, and the cruise, the curl already was heard that people from other far people were able to come and be Mekabel Pnei Alter Rebbe. It means they already heard that there's many more people on the way. Chassidim at that point wanted to write a Megillah Yotas Kislev and establish it as a rule and a din, just like Megillah Esther. However, and not only that, they were also already chosen ones of the Adas Chassidim that between themselves they already started preparing drafts of this Megillah and started talking between each other. When are they going to gather in Lyazna and ask Das Kodesh HaKadoshim, the opinion of the Alter Rebbe? And they assigned the date that they're going to meet up was going to be between, again this is Kislev, so they're going to come between Pesach and Shavuos later down. And the Kol Sadavar was a secret, and when they came actually to Lyazna, obviously they came around Pesach time, and they suggested to the Alter Rebbe this wish of Chassidim to write a Megillah for Yotas Kislev. The Alter Rebbe did not allow them, and he responded to them saying, and there's two nuschos. The first nusach was reached us from the Chassid Rabbi Person that he heard from his Zayder Reb Zev Velenker, which was Zeh Hayom, this day Yukva will be established Lemoyet Tmidi as an ongoing Yom Tev B'Yisrael between Yidden. Asher Boy, on this day Yisgadal V'Yiskada Shmei Rabba, his great and his exalted name should be sanctified. V'Yisoiru, it's a day that's opportune for Alfei Levavis B'Yisrael, thousands of Jewish hearts to be awakened, B'Tshuva, Sayin Tshuva, V'Avodah Shebelev, and to apply themselves to the service of the heart, to say Avodas Hamidus, Ki HaMaisa Chakuka B'Lev Yisrael de La'ela, being that this story is engraved in the heart of Yisrael de La'ela, which is the supernal source of Am Yisrael. Therefore, hence it's also engraved, it's written, Aksuva B'Lev Yisrael de L'Sata. This is a way of saying that it's not needed to be written down on a Megillah. This is engraved in our source Lamaila and imprinted in our hearts down here. That's one nusach. The second nusach that's transmitted to us by the Radat David Tzvichein, the way he heard it from his father, that heard it from his father and from his father-in-law, which was from his father Hachassid Reb Peretz Chaim and Ziknei Chassidim. He said as follows: this day will be established as a Moyed Tmidi, as a consistent Yom Tov B'Yisrael between the Yidden. Asher Bo Yizgadol Yizgadol Shmei Rabba. In this day, the Eibishter's his great name will be exalted and sanctified, and this will awaken tremendous thousands of Yiddish hearts. B'Tshuva V'Avodah Shebelev Ki HaMaisa Kishetiyach HaKuka B'Lev Yisrael Saba, when it will be engraved in the hearts of Yisrael Saba. Yisrael Saba was a way of the Alter Rebbe. Saba means the grandfather, but it's a way the Alter Rebbe would refer to Balei Moichin, Balei Deya. It's a play off what's written in Zoyar, the Nusach of like Saba Daite Sasim Yosef. And so the Alter Rebbe said, the second Nusach is the Alter Rebbe said, when it's going to be engraved in the hearts, then Tiyaksuva B'Lev Yisrael V'Sata. It's going to be engraved. It's going to be written on the hearts of Yisrael down here. So the Kitzur, according to the second Nusach, the Alter Rebbe said it depends on the fact that it should be engraved in the hearts of the, so to speak, the bigger Mevinim of Bnei Yisrael. Then it's also going to be trickle down into the hearts of the lower Yidden, non-Dargis, as opposed to the first. Okay.